Have you ever pursued a goal with every fiber of your being, visualized it with crystalline clarity, worked tirelessly toward its manifestation, only to watch it crumble before your eyes? The loan was denied, the relationship dissolved, the deal collapsed at the final hour, and you stood there amid the wreckage wondering what went wrong. It feels like failure, doesn't it? It feels like the universe turned its back on you, like the laws you trusted betrayed you at your most vulnerable moment. But Wallace D. Wattles, the visionary author of The Science of Getting Rich, had a shocking revelation for moments exactly like this one. You have not failed. He taught that within the precise science of wealth and success, there is no such thing as failure, only a temporary pause, a cosmic intermission, while the universe quietly prepares a check far larger than the one you originally requested. The pain you feel in moments of visible defeat is perhaps the most destructive force in the human experience of achievement. It is not the loss itself that destroys dreams. It is the interpretation of that loss, the story you tell yourself in the silence that follows. When the thing you wanted slips through your fingers, when the door slams shut in your face, a voice whispers that you must have done something wrong, that you are somehow unworthy, that the principles you believed in were nothing more than wishful thinking dressed in philosophical clothing. This heartbreak of apparent failure has killed more fortunes than any economic depression, ended more pursuits than any external obstacle ever could. It makes people quit, not because they lack ability, but because they lose the one thing more precious than ability: faith. But here is where Wallace D. Wattles offers you a lifeline that defies conventional understanding. When things go wrong, when your carefully constructed plans meet the immovable wall of reality, the world tells you to accept defeat gracefully and lower your expectations. Wattles says no. He taught that when you are acting in what he called the certain way, when your faith is strong, your purpose clear, your gratitude genuine, and your action consistent, a seeming failure is never what it appears to be. It is not a rejection. It is a cosmic redirection. It is the universe physically blocking you from walking into a room with a low ceiling because it is guiding you toward a mansion with vaulted halls. The intelligence behind all creation is saving you from a small prize precisely so it can deliver a massive one. The promise before you today is nothing less than liberation from the tyranny of disappointment. You are about to learn what Wattles called the law of the success guarantee, a principle so powerful that it transforms your entire relationship with setback and struggle. This is not about positive thinking or pretending that pain does not exist. This is about understanding the mechanics of how the universe actually operates, and using that understanding to look absolute defeat squarely in the face, laugh at its illusion, and watch with knowing eyes as it transforms into a victory far greater than anything you originally planned. The failure was never real. It was always a bridge to something bigger, and today you will learn to see it. What you are about to receive is the ultimate resilience mindset, a psychological and spiritual armor that renders you genuinely invincible. Not because you will never face setbacks, but because setbacks will lose their power to stop you. This is the mindset that separates those who eventually succeed from those who die with their music still inside them. It is the difference between temporary discouragement and permanent defeat, between a pause in the journey and an end to the road. Most people treat failure as a verdict, a final judgment on their worthiness and capability. You're about to treat it as evidence that something better is being prepared. Here is the pact I make with you today, a sacred agreement between seeker and guide. In this video, you will learn exactly why failure is mathematically impossible within this system, not as a matter of optimism, but as a matter of precise universal law. You will discover the three-step pivot protocol, a systematic method for transmuting every disaster into triumph, every closed door into a grander entrance. You will understand how to maintain your creative power even when circumstances scream at you to surrender it. This is not theory. This is technology for the soul, and it works with the reliability of gravity. But I must warn you of something critical, something that will be fully revealed in part 4 of our journey together. There exists a specific emotional reaction to disappointment that instantly voids this guarantee, that takes what should be a temporary pause and transforms it into a permanent loss. It is the only way to truly fail in this system, the single crack through which your power can leak away forever. I will reveal this guarantee voider later, and when you understand it, you will guard against it like a warrior guards the gates of the kingdom. For now, if you are ready to claim your birthright of inevitable success, I invite you to type in the comments below, "I accept only victory." Let these words be your declaration to the universe that you understand the game has changed. Let them be the seal on our pact. And let us begin. At the heart of Wallace D. Wattles' revolutionary teaching lies a claim so audacious that it stops most readers in their tracks. He declared that if you do not receive what you want, it is not because you asked for too much. It is because you asked for too little. Let that statement penetrate beyond your surface understanding, past the defenses of your rational mind, into the deeper waters of your consciousness where real transformation occurs. This is not motivational hyperbole designed to make you feel better about loss. This is Wattles' sincere assessment of how the creative forces of the universe actually function, and understanding it is the key to unlocking the success guarantee. Consider the implications of this principle with the seriousness it deserves. Every time you experienced what you called failure, every time a goal slipped away and left you questioning your path, you assumed that you had aimed too high, reached beyond your station, asked the universe for more than you deserved. This is the story that disappointment tells, and it is a lie. Wattles taught that the opposite is true. The universe did not deny your request because it was too large. It denied your request because it was too small. You were trying to fit yourself into a container that could not hold the fullness of what you are meant to become. And the intelligence behind all things shattered that container not to punish you, but to free you. The formless substance, Wattles' term for the infinite creative intelligence that permeates all reality, possesses knowledge that transcends your finite perspective. It sees the complete map of your life, while you see only the small section directly in front of you. It knows which paths lead to dead ends and which lead to kingdoms. It understands the hidden connections between events that appear unrelated to your limited view. When you set a goal, you set it based on what you know, which is always incomplete. The formless substance responds based on what it knows, which is everything. Sometimes these two perspectives align, and your desire manifests exactly as you pictured it. But sometimes they diverge, and that is when apparent failure occurs. Here is the crucial understanding that separates those who are destroyed by disappointment from those who are elevated by it. When you are doing the work correctly, when your faith burns strong, when your purpose is clear and unwavering, when gratitude fills your heart, when your actions are consistent and aligned with your vision, and still the specific thing you wanted does not materialize, it is not because the system broke down. The system is working perfectly. It is redirecting your energy away from the small thing you requested toward the greater thing that is already in motion. The failure you perceive is apparent, not real. It is a shadow on the wall, not the object casting the shadow. This requires a fundamental shift in how you interpret events. The untrained mind sees a closed door and concludes that the journey has ended. The trained mind, educated in Wattles' principles, sees a closed door and concludes that a larger door must be opening somewhere else. Otherwise, the energy of creation would have allowed passage through the smaller one. The universe is not capricious or cruel. It does not block your good for sport. Every obstacle serves a purpose, and that purpose is always your elevation, never your destruction. But you can only access this understanding if you release your attachment to specific outcomes and trust the intelligence that orchestrates all things. Think about the goals you have set in your life. How many of them were based on your complete understanding of your potential? How many were constrained by your limited beliefs about what was possible for you? How many were shaped by the expectations of others rather than the calling of your own soul? The truth that Wattles unveiled is that most people dramatically underestimate themselves. They ask for crumbs when banquets await them. They aim for hills when mountains are their destiny. And when the universe refuses to give them their crumbs and hills, they weep in confusion, never realizing they were being redirected to feasts and summits beyond their imagination. The formless substance does not respond to your conscious requests alone. It responds to the total vibration of your being, which includes desires you have not yet articulated, potentials you have not yet recognized, and a purpose that extends beyond your current understanding. When there is a mismatch between what you consciously ask for and what you are truly meant to receive, something has to give. Either you must shrink to fit your small request, or the request must be denied so you can grow into your larger destiny. The universe always chooses your growth. It cannot do otherwise, for growth is the fundamental law of all living things. Consider a moment when you desperately wanted something and did not receive it. Perhaps it was a job, a relationship, an opportunity that seemed perfect at the time. In the immediate aftermath of that denial, the pain was real and the disappointment was heavy. But now, with the perspective of time, can you see how that closed door led you somewhere better? Can you trace the path from that apparent failure to a success you would never have achieved if your original desire had been granted? This is not coincidence. This is the law of the success guarantee operating in your life even before you consciously knew it existed. The problem is not that this law fails to work. The problem is that most people abandon it before it completes its operation. They experience the first phase, the denial of the small thing, and conclude that the system is broken. They never stay engaged long enough to experience the second phase, the delivery of the greater thing. They quit in the intermission, not realizing the final act holds the triumph. Wattles understood that patience is not just a virtue, it is a necessity for anyone who wants to work with universal laws rather than against them. When you ask for something and receive it, you have operated correctly within your current understanding. But when you ask for something and do not receive it, while doing everything else right, you are being invited into an expanded understanding. The universe is saying you are thinking too small. Let me show you what is really possible. This is not rejection, this is education. This is not punishment, this is promotion. But you can only receive the lesson if you remain in the classroom. The moment you storm out in anger or crawl out in defeat, you forfeit the greater gift that was being prepared. This is why Wattles emphasized the certain way so intensely throughout his teachings. The certain way is not a guarantee that every specific thing you request will manifest exactly as you picture it. The certain way is a guarantee that your life will continuously expand and improve, that your good will continuously increase, that the universe will continuously deliver more and better to you, even when the form differs from your expectation. When you align with this certain way, you become untouchable by circumstance. You may bend, but you cannot break, because you know that every bending is a preparation for greater straightening. The apparent failure is the universe's quality control system. It examines your request, compares it to your potential, and makes a decision based on your highest good. Sometimes your request passes inspection and is delivered promptly, but sometimes your request is returned with a note that says, "You can do better than this. You are worth more than this. Wait for the upgrade." Most people tear up the note in frustration, never reading its message. The wise reader pauses, considers, and opens themselves to receiving what they could not originally conceive. You must begin to see your setbacks through this lens if you want access to the success guarantee. Every no is a "not this, something better." Every closed door is a redirection, not a rejection. Every failure is a recalculation, not a cancellation. The energy you invested in the denied goal is not lost. It is being rerouted to a destination more worthy of your investment. Your job is not to understand every detail of this redirection in real time. Your job is to trust that the redirection is occurring and to keep your creative faculties engaged while it unfolds. The bold claim of Wattles stands as a challenge to everything the world has taught you about failure. Society says that when you don't get what you want, you should lower your expectations and be more realistic. Wattles says the opposite. When you don't get what you want, it's because reality is trying to raise your expectations to match what you truly deserve. Society tells you to shrink. The universe is telling you to grow. The question is, whose voice will you obey? The answer to that question determines whether you will spend your life collecting crumbs or inheriting kingdoms. To truly grasp the success guarantee, let us examine an analogy that illuminates its logic with the clarity of the morning sun. Picture a young child walking through a store with his father, and his eyes lock onto a cheap plastic toy on the lowest shelf. To the child, this toy represents everything he wants in that moment. He points, he pleads, He employs every persuasive technique in his limited arsenal, and the father, looking at that plastic toy, simply says no. The child is devastated. In his understanding, he has failed. He asked for something, did everything he knew to do, and was denied. The system did not work. Life is unfair. His father does not love him. But the father possesses knowledge the child does not have. In the closet at home sits a brand new bicycle, purchased weeks ago, wrapped and waiting for the child's birthday tomorrow. The father sees the cheap plastic toy for what it is, a momentary distraction that would bring a few minutes of entertainment before breaking and being forgotten. He sees the bicycle for what it is, a gift that will bring months of joy, adventure, and growth. From the father's perspective, saying no to the toy is not an act of denial, but an act of love. He is protecting the child from settling for less when more has already been secured. Now extend this analogy to your relationship with the universe. You are the child. The formless substance, the creative intelligence behind all reality, is the father. When you ask for something and receive a no, you experience the emotional reality of the child in the store. You feel denied, rejected, unloved, but you lack the perspective of the father. You cannot see what has already been prepared for you, what is waiting just around the corner of time, what is being protected from your premature claim by the very refusal that wounds you. The denial of the small desire is not the absence of love. It is the presence of a greater love that refuses to let you settle. Consider how different the child's experience would be if he knew about the bicycle. He would walk past that plastic toy with a smile, perhaps even with pity for the toy's inadequacy compared to what awaited him. He would not beg, would not plead, would not experience a moment of disappointment, because his knowledge would transform the meaning of the moment. This is exactly what happens when you truly understand the success guarantee. You stop experiencing denial as rejection. You start experiencing it as protection. You walk past the closed doors not with despair but with anticipation, knowing that they are closed because they were too small for what you are about to receive. The logic here is not mystical, it is mathematical. The universe operates on principles of increase, growth, and expansion. It is not interested in shrinking you or limiting you or watching you suffer with unfulfilled potential. Every force in nature moves toward more life, more expression, more manifestation. When you align yourself with this fundamental movement through the certain way, you become part of this expansion. The universe cannot simultaneously be for your expansion and against your good. If something blocks your path while you are aligned with expansion, that blockage must serve expansion. There is no other possibility within the logical structure of universal law. The father did not refuse the toy to hurt the child. He refused the toy precisely because he loved the child and had something better planned. The universe does not block your paths to punish you or teach you humility or test your faith for sport. It blocks your paths because you are loved and something better is already in motion. The test is not whether you can endure suffering. The test is whether you can maintain your trust in the face of apparent evidence to the contrary. Can you believe in the bicycle when all you can see is the refused toy? Can you trust the father's love when his actions temporarily look like rejection? This analogy also illuminates why specific attachment is so dangerous to your success. The child was attached to the specific form of the plastic toy. He could not conceive of happiness taking any other shape in that moment. His imagination was limited to what his eyes could see on that particular shelf. The father's imagination was not so constrained. He knew that happiness could take the form of a bicycle, and that this form would deliver far more joy than the toy ever could. When you fixate on specific outcomes, this exact job, this exact person, this exact house, you become like the child crying for the toy while the bicycle waits unseen. The formless substance deals in essences, not just forms. When you desire wealth, it hears the essence of your request: abundance, security, freedom, expansion. When you desire love, it hears the essence: connection, appreciation, partnership, growth. The specific forms you imagine are just your limited mind's attempt to picture what these essences might look like. But your imagination, however developed, is still constrained by your experience and beliefs. The universe's imagination is infinite. It can conceive of forms for your essences that you could never picture, forms that would fulfill your desires far beyond what your specific requests would deliver. So when the specific form is denied, while the essence remains active in your being, do not conclude that your desire is being rejected. Conclude that your desire is being upgraded. The universe received your order for the essence and is preparing to deliver it in a form superior to the one you specified. The delay is not a denial. It is the universe saying, I can do better than what you asked for. Give me a moment to arrange the superior delivery. Your impatience, your disappointment, your loss of faith, these are the only things that can intercept the better delivery and leave you with nothing. The child who threw a tantrum in the store and remained bitter for days might have damaged his relationship with his father to the point where the birthday celebration was poisoned by residual resentment. The gift would still be given, but the joy of receiving it would be diminished by the emotional residue of the earlier conflict. In the same way, when you react to apparent failure with sustained negativity, you poison your ability to receive the greater thing that is coming. It still comes. The universe is faithful even when you are not, but your capacity to recognize and receive it may be compromised by your prior state of mind. This is why Wattles placed such emphasis on the immediate response to apparent failure. He did not teach that you should eventually come to terms with disappointment. He taught that you must refuse to be disappointed in the first place, that you must meet the closed door with the same faith you would bring to an open one, knowing that the closing serves your expansion as surely as the opening would have. This is not denial of reality. It is recognition of a deeper reality that surface events do not reveal. When the universe blocks a path, it is not acting against you, but for you. This statement either makes sense or does not, based on your fundamental beliefs about the nature of reality. If you believe the universe is random, chaotic, and indifferent, then a blocked path is meaningless bad luck to be endured. But if you accept Wattles' premise that an intelligent, beneficent force underlies all reality, and that this force operates according to discoverable laws, then a blocked path must have purpose. And since the fundamental purpose of this force is increase and expression, the blocked path must serve increase and expression. It must be blocking you from the small to prepare you for the great. The father in our analogy did not explain the bicycle to the child in the store. He simply said no and allowed the child's limited understanding to generate whatever interpretation it would. This is often how the universe operates with us. It closes doors without providing spreadsheets, explaining the superior opportunity being prepared. It redirects our paths without sending memos detailing the hidden dangers we avoided. We are left, like the child, to choose our interpretation based on faith rather than evidence. And that choice, whether to interpret through the lens of love and expansion or through the lens of rejection and limitation, determines everything that follows. You stand today at a crossroads that every person seeking success must eventually face. On one path lies the conventional interpretation of failure. You did not get what you wanted, therefore something is wrong, with you, with the universe, with the laws you trusted. On the other path lies Wattles' radical reinterpretation. You did not get what you wanted because what you wanted was too small, and the universe is arranging something larger. Both paths begin at the same point, the experience of apparent failure. But they lead to vastly different destinations. One leads to shrinking, settling, and eventually quitting. The other leads to expansion, elevation, and eventual triumph. The path you choose is not determined by your circumstances, but by your understanding. The principles you have now received are powerful beyond measure, but they remain theoretical until forged in the fire of actual application. To transform these truths from concepts into lived experience requires a specific mental state, a particular orientation of consciousness that allows the success guarantee to operate without interference. This required state is what we must now examine in careful detail, for without it, the most profound understanding will yield no practical fruit. Wallace D. Wattles called this state unconditional faith, and it is both simpler and more demanding than those words might initially suggest. Faith, as the world commonly understands it, is belief in the absence of evidence. You hope something is true, you wish for it to be so, and you call this hoping and wishing faith. But the faith Wattles described operates in a different dimension entirely. It is not belief despite the absence of evidence. It is certainty that transcends evidence altogether. It is knowing that something is true regardless of what appearances suggest, not because you have closed your eyes to reality, but because you have opened your eyes to a deeper reality that surface events cannot contradict. This knowing does not waver when storms arise, because it was never based on fair weather to begin with. Unconditional faith means exactly what the name implies: faith without conditions. Most people possess conditional faith, which functions smoothly only when circumstances cooperate. When the sun shines, when progress is visible, when results materialize according to schedule, their faith stands strong and tall. But introduce a cloud, delay the results, present apparent evidence of failure, and watch how quickly that faith crumbles into doubt, questioning, and eventually abandonment. Conditional faith is not faith at all in Wattles' framework. It is merely optimism that collapses at the first sign of resistance. True faith holds firm precisely when it seems unreasonable to do so. To develop this unconditional faith, you must understand what you are placing your faith in. You are not asked to have faith in specific outcomes, manifesting on specific timelines in specific forms. That would be attachment masquerading as faith, and it would break at the first deviation from expectation. Instead, you are asked to have faith in the underlying principle, that the universe operates according to laws of increase, that the formless substance always moves toward greater expression, that when you align with this movement through the certain way, your good must increase regardless of temporary appearances. This is faith in the system, not faith in particular results. Consider how a scientist has faith in gravity. She does not have faith that a specific object will fall in a specific way at a specific moment. She has faith that the principle of gravity operates consistently throughout the universe. If she drops an object and it appears to rise instead of fall, she does not conclude that gravity has failed. She concludes that some other force must be acting on the object, a wind, a magnetic field, a hidden support, because gravity itself is reliable beyond question. She investigates the anomaly with curiosity rather than doubt, because her faith is in the principle, not in the particular observation. This is the quality of faith required for the success guarantee to operate. When you experience apparent failure, when the thing you worked for does not materialize, you must not conclude that the principle has failed. You must conclude that forces you cannot see are acting on the situation, that the invisible father is protecting you from the plastic toy in favor of the bicycle, that the redirection serves your expansion even though you cannot yet trace its logic. You must investigate your apparent failure with curiosity rather than despair, asking not, "Why doesn't this work?" but "How is this working in ways I cannot yet perceive?" This level of faith is not developed overnight. It is cultivated through repeated practice, through consciously choosing the expanded interpretation over the contracted one, through proving to yourself again and again that the principle holds even when appearances contradict it. Each time you face apparent failure and maintain your faith, that faith grows stronger. Each time you see the better thing emerge from the ashes of the denied thing, your conviction deepens. Eventually, what began as effortful choice becomes effortless knowing. You no longer struggle to maintain faith in moments of trial. Faith has become the default orientation of your being. The enemy of unconditional faith is the evidence of the senses. Your eyes show you the closed door. Your ears hear the rejection. Your hands feel the emptiness where the desired thing should be. Every sensory input screams that failure has occurred, that the system has broken, that your trust was misplaced. And if you allow your faith to be governed by sensory evidence, it will collapse every time circumstances turn against you. But Wattles taught that the person operating in the certain way must be governed by truth, not by appearances. The truth is that the universe operates according to laws of increase. The appearance is that you have failed. When truth and appearance conflict, which will you believe? This is the daily battle of the person seeking to activate the success guarantee. Every morning you must choose truth over appearance. Every setback you must choose principle over evidence. Every disappointment you must choose the bicycle interpretation over the denied toy interpretation. This choosing is the work. This is the discipline that separates those who eventually triumph from those who fade into regretful obscurity. It is not glamorous work. No one watches you making these invisible choices. But these choices construct the mental state from which all external results emerge. Unconditional faith is not passive acceptance of whatever happens. It is not lying down before circumstance and calling surrender spiritual. It is the most active, engaged, dynamic state imaginable. It is holding a vision with iron determination while remaining flexible about the path to that vision. It is refusing to let temporary setbacks diminish your creative power while remaining humble enough to accept that the universe may know better routes than you do. It is confidence without arrogance, determination without rigidity, strength without brittleness. When the storm hits, and storms will hit, your unconditional faith must stand like a lighthouse, unchanged by the waves that crash against it. The lighthouse does not pretend the storm is not happening. It does not close its eyes to the churning seas and howling winds. But neither does it allow the storm to alter its fundamental nature or dim its guiding light. The storm is temporary. The lighthouse is permanent. Your circumstances are temporary. Your faith must be permanent. The person who can maintain their creative vision and expectation of good while the storm rages around them is the person who will still be standing when the storm passes, ready to receive the greater thing that the storm was secretly delivering. You must believe that the universe is always working for you. Not sometimes, not usually, not when you deserve it. Always. This is the unconditional nature of the faith required. There are no exceptions, no special circumstances where the universe pauses its support, no moments when you fall outside the operation of beneficent law. Even when it looks like the universe has abandoned you, it has not. Even when every piece of evidence suggests that you are alone and failing, you are neither. The appearance of abandonment is the universe's way of testing whether your faith depends on constant, visible reassurance or whether it has matured into genuine knowing. This faith is not belief in magic. It is not superstition dressed in philosophical language. It is recognition of how the universe actually operates, based on principles that can be tested and verified by anyone willing to apply them consistently. Every person who has achieved great success has operated from this faith, whether they articulated it in these terms or not. They believed in their vision when no one else did. They persisted through apparent failures that would have stopped anyone without this faith. They interpreted setbacks as setups for greater breakthroughs, and reality eventually confirmed their interpretation. The cultivation of unconditional faith begins with a decision and continues with practice. You decide that from this moment forward, you will interpret all events through the lens of the success guarantee. You will see every closed door as a redirection to a larger entrance. You will treat every denial as evidence of a greater approval being prepared. You will hold your vision of increase and expansion regardless of what temporary circumstances suggest. This decision must be renewed daily, sometimes hourly, sometimes moment by moment when challenges are intense. But each renewal strengthens the faith it exercises, until eventually the decision becomes so ingrained that it operates automatically. Stand now at the threshold of a new way of being. On one side lies the old pattern, faith that rises and falls with circumstances, hope that strengthens in sunshine and weakens in storms, belief that demands constant visible evidence to sustain itself. On the other side lies the unconditional faith that Wattles described, steady, unwavering, independent of appearances, anchored not in what you can see, but in what you know to be true. The crossing from one side to the other is the essential preparation for everything that follows. Without this crossing, the techniques will not work as promised. With it, nothing can stop your eventual triumph. You must train yourself to respond to bad news with good faith. When the email arrives with the rejection, when the phone call delivers the disappointment, when the circumstance reveals itself as the opposite of what you hoped, that moment is your training ground. That moment is where faith is forged or broken. Will you collapse into the appearance, allowing the bad news to determine your mental state and expectation? Or will you rise into truth, treating the bad news as the universe's way of saying something better approaches? This is not about denying your human emotions. Feel what you feel. But do not let feelings become conclusions. Feel the disappointment, then choose the faith. Feel the frustration, then choose the interpretation that serves your expansion. Your faith must become unconditional, because the universe's support for you is unconditional. It does not withdraw its beneficence when you make mistakes or face setbacks. It does not punish you with failure because you fell short of some standard. It is perpetually, inexhaustibly, infinitely working for your increase and expression. Your job is not to earn this support. You cannot earn what is freely given to all. Your job is to align with this support through faith, to stop resisting it through doubt, to stop blocking it through interpretations that contradict its operation. When your faith matches the universe's commitment to your good, nothing can prevent your continuous advancement. This is the mental preparation required for the pivot protocol you are about to receive. Without unconditional faith, the protocol becomes mere technique, and technique alone cannot overcome the gravitational pull of doubt and disappointment. But with unconditional faith established as your foundation, the protocol becomes a precise method for channeling infinite creative power through your apparent failures into your inevitable successes. Prepare your mind now. Strengthen your faith now. The practices that follow will only be as effective as the mental soil into which they are planted. With your mental foundation now established in unconditional faith, you are ready to receive the precise methodology for transmuting apparent failure into actual success. This is the three-step pivot protocol, a systematic approach that takes the raw material of disappointment and transforms it into the refined gold of greater achievement. Each step builds upon the previous, creating a complete response system that renders you functionally immune to failure's ability to stop your progress. Study these steps carefully, practice them deliberately, and watch how your entire relationship with setback transforms. The first step of the pivot protocol is the refusal to accept defeat. This is not denial of what happened. It is rejection of the interpretation that what happened constitutes failure. When the deal falls through, when the application is denied, when the relationship ends, when any of the countless forms of apparent failure present themselves to your experience, you must immediately and deliberately engage in an act of redefinition. You must not say, even in the privacy of your own mind, "I have failed." Instead, you must say with conviction and certainty, "This did not happen because something better is coming." This verbal and mental reframing is not optional. It is the essential first response that determines everything that follows. The power of this refusal lies in its effect on your subconscious mind. Your subconscious does not evaluate the truth of statements. It accepts whatever your conscious mind consistently declares and builds beliefs accordingly. When you accept defeat, when you allow the word failure to describe your experience, your subconscious records this as fact and begins orienting your entire being toward this accepted reality. Your energy drops, your creativity diminishes, your perception narrows to see only more evidence of the failure you have accepted. But when you refuse defeat, when you declare that the apparent setback is actually a redirection toward something greater, your subconscious records this instead and begins orienting your being toward this alternative reality. This refusal must happen immediately. There is a crucial window in the aftermath of apparent failure, when your interpretation is most malleable, when the experience has not yet hardened into a fixed meaning. In this window, you have maximum power to shape how the event will be recorded in your subconscious. If you wait, if you allow the initial interpretation of defeat to settle and solidify, the reframing becomes exponentially more difficult. The moment you receive news of apparent failure, that is the moment to speak your refusal aloud. This did not happen because something better is coming. Do not wait for your emotions to calm down. Do not wait until you understand why the failure occurred. Speak the refusal immediately, while the meaning is still wet and moldable. The language of this refusal matters deeply. Notice that it does not say, "Something better might come," or "I hope something better comes." It says, "Something better is coming." This is not wishful thinking. This is declaration of principle. You are not expressing a preference for a better outcome. You are stating your understanding of how universal law operates. When you are aligned with the certain way and a specific outcome is blocked, the blocking serves a greater outcome. This is not possibility. This is certainty. Your language must reflect this certainty if your subconscious is to accept and act upon it. The second step of the pivot protocol is the doubling of faith, Most people, when confronted with apparent failure, respond by shrinking their expectations. They lower their goals, reduce their visions, contract their sense of what is possible for them. This seems like wisdom, adjusting to reality, being practical, avoiding future disappointment. But it is actually the worst possible response, because it treats the apparent failure as evidence about your capability and potential, rather than as redirection toward a greater expression of that capability and potential. The correct response is exactly opposite. Instead of shrinking in disappointment, you must expand in expectation. When you do not receive what you asked for, the proper conclusion under the success guarantee is that you asked for too little. The universe did not deny your request because you aimed too high. It denied your request because you aimed too low. Therefore, the rational response to apparent failure is to raise your sights, not lower them. If you did not get that job, it is because you are meant for a better one. So expand your vision to include the better job. If that deal collapsed, it is because a greater deal is being arranged. So expand your vision to include the greater deal. If that relationship ended, it is because a more aligned partnership awaits. So expand your vision to include the truer connection. This doubling of faith requires courage because it moves against every instinct that apparent failure triggers. The natural response to disappointment is self-protection through reduced expectation. We want to avoid future pain by wanting less. But this strategy guarantees only one thing: a smaller life. The person who responds to apparent failure by expanding rather than contracting is betting on the success guarantee with their entire being. They are saying to the universe, "I trust you. I know this closed door means a larger door is opening. I am preparing myself to receive even more than I originally asked for." This expanded expectation is not fantasy, it is faith made visible. Practically, this means that in the aftermath of apparent failure, you must deliberately amplify your creative activities rather than diminishing them. If you were visualizing a certain income, visualize a higher income. If you were affirming a certain level of success, affirm a greater level. If you were giving thanks for anticipated blessings, give thanks for even larger blessings. Throw more energy into your vision, not less. Intensify your practices, not abandon them. This is counterintuitive when your emotions are urging retreat, but this is exactly why it is powerful. You are demonstrating through action that your faith is unconditional, that it does not depend on circumstances, that it strengthens rather than weakens under pressure. The third step of the pivot protocol is the search for the new door. When energy is blocked in one direction, it does not disappear. It must express through another direction. The universe is always creating, always moving, always opening pathways for increase. When one pathway closes, the energy that would have flowed through it redirects to another pathway, often immediately. Your job in this third step is to actively look for this new pathway rather than standing frozen before the closed old one. The opportunity you need is already appearing. You must simply shift your attention to find it. This search must be active and expectant, not passive and doubtful. You are not hoping that maybe something good will happen. You are looking for the specific something good that you know is already happening. The difference in energy between these two approaches is enormous. The passive hope keeps your attention on the closed door, occasionally glancing around for alternatives. The active search fixes your attention firmly forward, scanning the horizon for the new opportunity that the universe's redirection is revealing. Often, remarkably often, this new opportunity is disguised as the problem itself, hidden within the very circumstances of the apparent failure. Consider how many successful ventures emerged from failed ones. Consider how many meaningful relationships began because previous relationships ended. Consider how many breakthroughs occurred because breakdowns forced new directions. The new door is frequently located inside the experience of the old door closing. The person who lost their job and was forced to start their own business, which succeeded beyond any employment they could have found. The person whose rejected proposal led to a conversation that led to a partnership that led to success. The person whose collapsed deal revealed a flaw that, once corrected, made all subsequent deals successful. The new door is there, waiting to be discovered by anyone willing to search for it. This search requires flexibility about the form your success will take. You know the essence of what you desire. abundance, love, fulfillment expression. You must now release attachment to the specific form you previously imagined and open yourself to forms you had not considered. The new door may look different from the old one. The opportunity may come from an unexpected direction. The path to your goal may route through territory you did not anticipate exploring. Stay committed to the destination, but flexible about the journey. This flexibility is not weakness. It is wisdom that allows you to receive what the universe is actually giving rather than missing it, because it does not match your preconceptions. The 3 steps work together as a complete system. The refusal to accept defeat protects your subconscious from accepting limitation. The doubling of faith expands your capacity to receive what is coming. The search for the new door directs your attention toward the actual opportunity being presented. Miss any step and the protocol is incomplete. Execute all 3 and you become genuinely unstoppable. Not because you never face apparent failure, but because apparent failure loses its power to halt your progress. You simply pivot and continue again and again until the success that is guaranteed to you manifests in form. Now adopt the post-technique mantra that seals this entire process. These 4 words will become your automatic response to every apparent setback, the verbal trigger that initiates the pivot protocol, the declaration that keeps your faith intact and your possibilities open. The mantra is this or something better. When the specific thing does not materialize, immediately speak these words. They acknowledge what you wanted while simultaneously opening space for the upgrade. They express faith without attachment. They demonstrate trust in the principle while releasing grip on the particular. Make these words so familiar to your mind that they arise automatically whenever disappointment knocks at your door. This mantra serves multiple functions simultaneously. It protects you from the collapse into disappointment that voids the guarantee. It maintains your creative energy in an upward spiral rather than a downward plunge. It signals to your subconscious that you understand and trust the redirection process. And it opens your perception to possibilities beyond your original conception. Every time you speak this or something better, you are executing a condensed version of the entire pivot protocol. You are refusing defeat, expanding expectation, and opening to new opportunities in 4 simple words. Practice this mantra in low-stakes situations first. When the parking spot you wanted is taken, say this or something better, and drive on with genuine expectation. When the restaurant reservation is unavailable, speak the mantra and anticipate a superior experience elsewhere. When minor disappointments arise throughout your daily life, use each one as an opportunity to strengthen your automatic response. Build the habit in calm waters so that when storms arise, the habit is strong enough to carry you through. You now possess the complete pivot protocol. You understand the mental preparation of unconditional faith. You know the 3 steps: refuse defeat, double faith, search for new doors. You have the mantra that initiates and sustains the process. What remains is practice. Repeated, consistent, determined practice until these responses become as natural as breathing. The universe is ready to guarantee your success. The question is whether you are ready to claim that guarantee by responding to every apparent failure in the way that keeps the guarantee active. The path of the success guarantee, like all paths of power, is bordered by pitfalls that have trapped countless seekers before you. Understanding these pitfalls is not optional wisdom, but essential protection. You must know not only what to do, but also what not to do, not only the practices that activate the guarantee, but also the mistakes that void it. Here we examine the fatal errors that transform what should be temporary pauses into permanent defeats. And in doing so, we reveal the guarantee voider that I promised earlier would be unveiled. The first and most deadly mistake is the collapse into disappointment. This is the guarantee voider, the single crack through which your infinite creative power can leak away into nothingness. Remember what I told you at the beginning of our journey together. There exists one specific emotional reaction to apparent failure that instantly voids the success guarantee, that takes a temporary pause and transforms it into permanent loss. That reaction is sustained disappointment that sinks into the subconscious and is accepted as reality. This is the only way to truly fail in Wattles' system. This is the one door through which defeat can enter, and make its home in your experience. Understanding why disappointment is so dangerous requires understanding how the success guarantee actually operates. The guarantee works because the universe continuously arranges for your good when you maintain your creative alignment through faith, purpose, gratitude, and action. The better thing that replaces the blocked thing is not automatic. It requires your continued participation in the creative process. When you collapse into disappointment, you withdraw from this creative process. Your faith wavers, your purpose clouds, your gratitude sours, and your action stalls. The machinery that produces your good grinds to a halt, not because the universe stopped supporting you, but because you stopped showing up. Disappointment is insidious because it feels like an appropriate response to negative events. The world validates disappointment. Friends console you by affirming your right to be disappointed. Society expects you to be disappointed and would view any other response as denial or delusion. This cultural validation makes disappointment feel natural and even necessary. But Wattles was teaching a science, and science does not care about social expectations. The scientific fact is that disappointment, when accepted and sustained, severs your connection to the creative forces that would otherwise deliver your good. The mechanism works like this. When you accept disappointment as your reality, you are implicitly accepting that the apparent failure was real failure. You are telling your subconscious mind that the thing you wanted was truly denied, that the universe did not support you, that your efforts were in vain. Your subconscious, obedient as always, records this as fact and adjusts your entire orientation accordingly. Your expectation shifts from success to failure. Your attention shifts from opportunity to obstacle. Your energy shifts from creation to resignation. And in this shifted state, you cannot perceive or receive the greater thing that was being arranged for you. The better thing that the universe prepares when it blocks the lesser thing requires you to remain in receiving mode to receive it. Disappointment switches you out of receiving mode and into loss mode. In loss mode, you are vibrating at a frequency incompatible with increase. The greater opportunity could be standing directly in front of you, and you would not see it because your disappointed state has blinded you to everything except evidence of failure. The universe did not fail you. Your emotional response to apparent failure created conditions where the success guarantee could not operate. Wattles stated it directly. Hold your faith, and you will see that the failure was really a great success. But if you do not hold your faith, you will not see. The success is there, but your vision is clouded. This does not mean you should suppress or deny your human emotions. The goal is not to become an unfeeling robot who processes setbacks without any emotional response. Feelings arise naturally. They are part of the human experience. But there is a crucial difference between feeling disappointment as a passing wave and accepting disappointment as a permanent residence. You can feel disappointed without becoming disappointed. You can experience the initial sting of apparent failure without allowing that sting to determine your ongoing mental state. Feel it, acknowledge it, then deliberately choose a different interpretation before the feeling solidifies into belief. The antidote to the collapse into disappointment is the immediate application of the pivot protocol. The moment apparent failure appears, before disappointment has time to sink in and take root, you must speak your refusal. This did not happen because something better is coming. This interruption is crucial. It prevents the automatic interpretation of failure from becoming the accepted interpretation. It keeps the meaning of the event fluid until you can consciously shape it toward expansion. Every second you delay this interruption is a second in which disappointment can burrow deeper into your subconscious, making the extraction more difficult. You must treat disappointment as a lie, not as a valid emotion to be honored and processed, but as a lie about the nature of reality that must be refused entry to your consciousness. The lie says that you have failed, that the universe has turned against you, that your good is denied. The truth says that you are being redirected, that the universe is protecting you from the small to give you the great, that your good is being upgraded. These two cannot coexist. You must choose one, and you must choose quickly. Every time you feel the pull of disappointment, recognize it as the lie attempting entry and refuse it passage. Guard the gates of your mind as you would guard the gates of your home against intruders. The second fatal mistake is fixating on the form. This error is more subtle than the first, but equally capable of voiding your guarantee. Fixation occurs when you become so obsessed with a specific outcome. This particular house, this particular person, this particular job, this particular amount of money, that you cannot conceive of your good arriving in any other package. This fixation creates resistance in the creative process because you are attempting to dictate to the universe not just what you want, but precisely how it must arrive. Wattles taught that you should be clear about the essence of what you desire while remaining flexible about its form. The essence of wanting a particular house might be security, beauty, comfort, belonging. The essence of wanting a particular person might be love, partnership, growth, connection. The essence of wanting a particular job might be purpose, income, recognition, contribution. These essences are what your soul truly seeks. The specific forms you imagine are just your limited mind's attempt to picture what these essences might look like. When you fixate on form, you reject all the ways the universe might deliver the essence that do not match your predetermined picture. Consider what happens when you are fixated on a specific house and that house does not become yours. If you cannot release the fixation, you remain stuck in longing for that particular property, while the universe attempts to show you a better property that would deliver the same essence plus additional blessings you did not think to request. Your fixation creates blindness. You cannot see the better option because your eyes are locked on the unavailable one. Your attention and energy remain bound to a closed door, while open doors go unnoticed and eventually close as well. Fixation is not faith. It is attachment masquerading as clarity. The antidote to fixation is trust in the essence rather than the form. Know clearly what you want to feel, experience, and become. Hold that vision of essence with absolute clarity and unwavering faith. But leave the form open. Let the universe determine the best vehicle for delivering your essence. When a specific form is denied, this is your signal to release attachment to that form and open to alternatives. The essence is non-negotiable. It is the true desire of your being. The form is negotiable. It is merely one possible container for the essence. Learn to say, I want the experience of abundance, and I trust the universe to determine its best form. Say, I want the experience of deep love, and I remain open to how that love arrives. Say, I want the experience of meaningful work, and I release attachment to the specific position. This release is not resignation or lowered expectations. It is elevated trust. It is recognizing that your imagination, however developed, cannot conceive of all the ways your good might appear, and it is making space for forms superior to any you could design. Between these two mistakes, the collapse into disappointment and the fixation on form, most seekers find their progress halted. They either lose faith when apparent failure arrives, or they cannot release specific expectations to allow greater alternatives. Guard against both. When apparent failure arrives, refuse disappointment and maintain your creative alignment. When specific forms are denied, release attachment and trust the essence to manifest in superior packaging. These two protections, combined with the pivot protocol, render you genuinely invincible in your pursuit of increase and success. Wallace D. Wattles did not teach from ivory tower abstraction. He taught from observation of how the laws actually operated in human lives, including examples of those who faced apparent failure and emerged into greater success by applying the principles you are learning today. One such example appears directly in his writings, and examining it illuminates exactly how the success guarantee functions when properly engaged. Wattles described a man who planned what he called a great business combination. This man had vision, ambition, and was operating in the certain way. He saw an opportunity to bring together various business interests into a unified enterprise that would create value for all involved. He worked on this plan, developed it, pursued it with energy and determination. And then, after all this effort and vision, the combination failed completely. It did not partially succeed. It did not gradually fade. It failed completely. By any conventional measure, this man had experienced decisive defeat. But this man knew the principles. He understood that apparent failure when faced with faith maintained, is not real failure, but cosmic redirection. So instead of collapsing into disappointment, instead of accepting the failure as proof that his vision was wrong or his abilities insufficient, he held his faith. He did not curse the universe or abandon his path. He did not lower his expectations or shrink his vision. He held steady in the storm, trusting that the failure was apparent only, and that something greater was being arranged behind the scenes of visible events. What happened next validates everything Wattles taught. With his faith held firm, this man began to perceive new possibilities that the failed combination had obscured. He saw angles he had not previously noticed, opportunities that only became visible because the original plan had cleared out of the way. And from this new perception, he created a combination far greater than he had first imagined. The failure was not the end of his business vision. It was the beginning of its true expression. The universe had blocked the small plan because the small plan would have exhausted his energy and resources on something beneath his actual potential. Examine this example closely, for it contains the entire mechanism of the success guarantee in concrete form. The man did everything right initially. He had vision, he took action, he pursued his goal, but the goal was too small, though he did not know it. The formless substance, knowing his true potential, could not allow him to succeed at something beneath him. So it arranged for the failure of the small plan, which felt like disaster, but was actually protection. Then, crucially, the man responded correctly to this apparent failure. He held his faith. He did not interpret the failure as final. He remained open to new possibilities. His faith-holding was not passive waiting. It was active maintenance of creative alignment. He continued to believe in his ultimate success even when evidence suggested failure. He continued to expect increase even when decrease had apparently occurred. He continued to operate in the certain way even when the specific form he had envisioned had dissolved. This active holding created the conditions for new perception to arise. Had he collapsed into disappointment, his perception would have narrowed to see only evidence of failure. Instead, his maintained faith kept his perception open and creative, allowing him to see the greater opportunity that was being revealed. Notice also what Wattles says about the man's eventual realization. He saw that his first plan was too weak. This seeing came only in retrospect, after the greater success had manifested. In the moment of apparent failure, he did not have this clarity. He simply had his faith and his commitment to the principles. The understanding came later, as confirmation that his faith had been correctly placed. This is often how the success guarantee works. You maintain faith without understanding, and understanding arrives later to confirm that your faith was justified. If you demand understanding before faith, you have the sequence reversed and will struggle to maintain alignment through difficult periods. This example also demonstrates the role of time in the success guarantee. The man did not see his greater success immediately after his apparent failure. There was a period between, a period of holding faith, remaining open, searching for new doors. This period can feel excruciating if your faith is weak. Every day that passes without visible improvement seems to confirm that the failure was real. But the person operating in the certain way uses this period not to doubt, but to prepare. They know the greater thing is coming. They simply do not yet know its form or timing. They use the waiting period to strengthen their faith, clarify their vision, and prepare themselves to receive abundantly when the manifestation arrives. The man in Wattles' example did not try to force his original plan to work after it had failed. He did not bang his head against the closed door in stubborn insistence that it must open. He accepted that the specific form had been denied, while maintaining faith that the essence of his desire, successful business creation, remained guaranteed. This allowed him to flow with the redirection rather than resist it. His flexibility about form, combined with his certainty about essence, created the precise conditions for the greater opportunity to emerge and be recognized. Ask yourself, how would you have responded in this man's position? After investing significant effort in a business plan that then failed completely, what would your emotional and mental response have been? Would you have held faith, or would you have collapsed into disappointment? Would you have remained open to new possibilities, or would you have fixated on the failed form and concluded that your ambitions were unrealistic? Your honest answer to these questions reveals where your work lies. The gap between how this man responded and how you would have responded is the gap you must close through practice of the principles and the pivot protocol. Learn also from what this man did not do. He did not blame external circumstances for his failure. He did not become bitter about the universe or the people involved. He did not use the failure as evidence that success was not meant for him. He did not lower his expectations to protect himself from future disappointment. Each of these responses would have voided the guarantee. Each would have created conditions incompatible with the greater success that was being arranged. His refusal to engage in these negative responses was as important as his positive maintenance of faith. The story of this man should become one of your touchstones when facing apparent failure yourself. Remember that someone walked this path before you, faced complete failure of their plans, held faith despite all evidence, and emerged into a success greater than their original vision. If it happened for him, it can happen for you, not because you are special, but because the laws operate uniformly for anyone who applies them correctly. The universe does not play favorites. It responds to faith with delivery, to expectation with manifestation, to alignment with increase. These responses are as reliable as gravity, available to any person who learns to work with them. Let this example also expand your tolerance for apparent failure. Most people fear failure so intensely that they either avoid attempting great things or crumble immediately when setbacks occur. But if Wattles is correct, and the evidence supports his teaching, then apparent failure is not something to fear, but something to navigate skillfully. It is not the end of your story, but potentially the beginning of a greater chapter. It is not proof that the universe opposes you, but evidence that it has bigger plans than you knew to request. With this understanding, you can pursue ambitious goals with courage, knowing that even if they fail in their specific form, they are likely failing to make room for something superior. The man who planned the great business combination became greater than he ever would have been if his first plan had succeeded. The failure was not his enemy, it was his teacher and ultimately his benefactor. The universe did not deny him, it upgraded him. But this upgrade was only possible because he responded correctly to the apparent failure. Had he responded incorrectly, he would have voided the guarantee and remained forever at the level of his initial small plan, or lower. The guarantee is real, but it is conditional on your response. Maintain faith and failure becomes a pivot point to greater success. Lose faith, and failure becomes exactly what it appears to be. The principles Wattles taught were not invented by him, but observed by him in the operations of universal law across human experience. To strengthen your faith in these principles, let us examine how they have manifested in lives that the world considers legendary. These are not obscure examples known only to students of esoteric philosophy. These are stories embedded in the cultural consciousness, stories whose lessons we often miss because we see only the triumphant ending without tracing the path of apparent failure that led there. Consider the life of Steve Jobs, the visionary who transformed multiple industries and built one of the most valuable companies in human history. In 1985, Jobs was fired from Apple, the company he had co-founded, the company that bore so much of his vision and identity. Imagine the apparent failure of this moment. He had poured his youth, his genius, his very self into building this company, and then he was removed from it by the people he had recruited to help him lead. By any conventional standard, this was devastating failure. His life's work had been taken from him. Now observe his response, which perfectly demonstrates the principles you have been learning. Jobs did not collapse into sustained disappointment. Oh, he felt the pain. He described this period as devastating and as feeling like a very public failure. But he did not let this feeling become his permanent state. He did not accept defeat. He maintained his creative vision and his sense of purpose. He described this firing, in retrospect, as one of the best things that ever happened to him. But here is the crucial point. He did not wait for retrospect to respond correctly. He responded correctly first, and the positive retrospect followed. With his faith and creative energy intact despite the apparent failure, Jobs launched into new ventures. He founded Next, a computer company, and acquired what became Pixar Animation Studios. These ventures were not retreats or consolations, they were expansions into new territories. At Pixar, he oversaw the creation of revolutionary animated films that changed cinema. At Next, he developed technologies that would later become central to Apple's resurgence. He did not shrink after his firing. He expanded. He did not lower his expectations. He pursued new ones with the same intensity he had brought to Apple. Then came the pivot that only the universe could have orchestrated. In 1997, Apple purchased Next, bringing Jobs back to the company that had expelled him. But he did not return as the same person who had left. The years away had refined him, matured him, given him experiences and perspectives he could never have gained while remaining at Apple. He returned to lead a company that was weeks from bankruptcy and transformed it into the most valuable company on earth. He oversaw the creation of the iPod, the iPhone, the iPad, devices that redefined entire categories of human experience. Here is the success guarantee made visible. If Jobs had not been fired from Apple, none of this would have happened. He would have stayed, continued building computers, perhaps achieved significant success, but nothing like what actually occurred. The firing, which appeared to be absolute defeat, was actually the universe clearing the path for a far greater achievement. The apparent failure was the necessary condition for the real success. The denied small thing made room for the massive thing that could only emerge through the redirection. Jobs himself came to understand this. In his famous Stanford commencement address, he told the graduates, "I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me." The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. This is not positive spin applied after the fact. This is recognition of how the principle actually operated in his life. The failure freed him for greater creativity and eventual greater success. Now apply Wattles' framework to this story explicitly. The Formless Substance saw Jobs' potential, which extended far beyond what he could have achieved if his first tenure at Apple had continued uninterrupted. To unlock this greater potential, the universe arranged for his removal from the context that was limiting him. Jobs could not see this at the time. He saw only the closing door. But he responded correctly. He maintained faith. He expanded rather than contracted. He looked for new doors. And because of this response, the guarantee operated. The better thing came. It took years, not days, but it came. This pattern repeats across the lives of nearly every person who achieved lasting greatness. Abraham Lincoln lost far more elections than he won before becoming president. His failures in business, his defeats in politics, his personal tragedies, each of these apparent failures contributed to forming the character that could lead a nation through its greatest crisis. Had he succeeded earlier, at a smaller level, he might never have developed the resilience and wisdom that the presidency required. The failures were preparation, not punishment. Consider Thomas Edison, whose thousands of failed experiments are legendary. Each failure was, in his framework, not a failure at all, but a successful discovery of what did not work. This reframing allowed him to maintain creative engagement through setback after setback until the breakthroughs came. Had he collapsed into disappointment after his first 100 failed attempts, we might not have electric light as we know it. His response to apparent failure, treating it as data rather than defeat, kept the success guarantee operational throughout his work. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter manuscript was rejected by 12 publishers before finding one willing to take a chance. Each rejection was apparent failure, a door slammed shut, evidence that her vision would not find expression. But she did not accept these rejections as final verdicts on her work's worth. She continued submitting, continued believing, continued looking for the door that would open. When it finally did, the success that followed was beyond anything she could have imagined during the rejection period. The failures were not evidence that she would not succeed. They were the universe's way of directing her manuscript to the publisher who would support it best. These examples share a common structure. Apparent failure occurred, often severely and repeatedly. The person experiencing failure maintained faith and creative engagement despite appearances. They did not collapse into sustained disappointment or give up. They remained open to new possibilities and continued to act in alignment with their vision. Eventually, success manifested in forms that exceeded what the original smaller success would have delivered. The guarantee operated because the conditions for its operation were maintained. You might object that these are exceptional people with exceptional talents, and therefore their stories do not apply to ordinary lives. This objection misunderstands the nature of the principle. The success guarantee does not operate only for the talented or the destined. It operates for anyone who applies the laws correctly, regardless of their starting point or perceived potential. The person of modest ambition who maintains faith through setback will find their modest ambition upgraded. The person of great ambition who maintains faith through setback will find their great ambition fulfilled. The scale differs. The principle is identical. Moreover, you do not know your own potential. The people in these examples did not know, at the moment of their apparent failures, that they would become what they became. Jobs did not know, when fired in 1985, that he would return to create the iPhone. Lincoln did not know, during his years of defeat, that he would save the Union. Rowling did not know, reading her 12th rejection, that she would become one of the best-selling authors in history. They knew only that they would not accept defeat, that they would maintain faith, that they would continue. What they became was revealed only through this maintained engagement. Your potential is similarly hidden from you. The universe knows what you are capable of becoming. You know only what you have already been. When apparent failure arrives, you cannot judge whether it is truly limiting you or actually clearing space for an expression of yourself that you cannot yet imagine. The rational response, given this uncertainty, is to assume the best interpretation and maintain your faith accordingly. The cost of this assumption is nothing. The cost of the opposite assumption is potentially everything. Let the examples of Jobs, Lincoln, Edison, Rowling, and countless others serve as evidence that the success guarantee is not wishful thinking but observable pattern. The universe consistently delivers greater things to those who respond to apparent failure with maintained faith and expanded expectation. This is not selection bias, seeing only the successes. This is recognition that success of this magnitude typically requires the failure of smaller things first. The guarantee is real. The examples prove it. Your life can be the next proof, if you respond correctly to whatever apparent failures life presents. Let me share with you a story that brings these principles from the realm of famous lives into the realm of ordinary experience. This is the kind of story that could happen to anyone, that might have already happened to you, and that illustrates how the success guarantee operates in the daily texture of human life. A person, let us call him David, decided to purchase a home. He had worked hard, saved diligently, and felt ready to plant roots in a community he loved. He found a house that seemed perfect. It had the features he wanted, it was in the neighborhood he had imagined, and the price was within his budget. He visualized himself living there, felt the gratitude of ownership, took all the actions required to make the purchase happen. He was operating in the certain way, or so he believed, and he expected his visualization to manifest. The offer was accepted, the inspection went well, the financing was approved. Everything seemed aligned for the successful completion of his dream. And then, at the last minute, the sale fell through. The seller had a change of heart, or a competing buyer emerged with better terms, or some complication arose that David could not control. The details matter less than the result. The house he had visualized, expected, and emotionally inhabited was suddenly no longer his. David was crushed. This was not a minor disappointment. It felt like betrayal by the very forces he had trusted. He had done everything right. He had visualized, believed, taken action, maintained gratitude, and still the thing he wanted was denied. In that moment, the temptation to collapse into disappointment was overwhelming. Every teaching about the power of intention seemed like cruel mockery. Every affirmation about the universe supporting him felt like a lie. But David knew Wattles' teachings. He knew about the success guarantee and the guarantee voider. He knew that this moment was the pivot point that would determine whether his disappointment was temporary or permanent. So, despite his feelings, he made a choice. He refused to accept the failed purchase as failure. He spoke aloud, This did not happen because something better is coming. He did not feel this truth in his emotions. His emotions screamed the opposite, but he declared it anyway, as an act of will and faith. Then he doubled his faith instead of diminishing it. He told himself, if I didn't get that house, it's because a better house is waiting for me. He expanded his expectation rather than contracting it. He visualized not just a house as good as the one he lost, but a house better than the one he lost. This felt almost absurd given his emotional state, but he did it anyway because he understood the principle. Finally, he began to search for new doors. He did not spend weeks mourning the lost house. He resumed his search immediately, looking with expectation for the better house that he had declared was coming. He remained open to possibilities he might have dismissed before, neighborhoods he had not considered, styles of home he had not imagined. 2 weeks later, the market shifted. A house came on the market in a better neighborhood than his original choice, quieter streets, better schools, closer to amenities David valued. The price, due to the market shift, was lower than what he had been prepared to pay for the original house. He submitted an offer, it was accepted, and this time the sale completed without complication. David moved into his new home, a home superior to his original choice in virtually every measurable way. But here is the detail that transforms this story from pleasant coincidence to evidence of the success guarantee. 6 months after David moved in, he learned that the original house, the one he had lost, had been discovered to have severe mold problems hidden behind the walls. The issues would have cost tens of thousands of dollars to remediate and would have posed health risks to David and his family during the remediation process. The seller had not known about these problems. The inspection had not detected them. They emerged only after the new owners took possession and began renovations. David had been protected by his apparent failure. The universe, knowing what he could not know, had blocked him from purchasing a house that would have become a nightmare. It had redirected him to a superior house at a lower price in a better location. The failure of the first purchase was actually the universe's quality control system operating exactly as Wattles described. The small thing was denied, so the greater thing could be delivered. Now consider what would have happened if David had responded differently to the failed purchase. If he had collapsed into sustained disappointment, he would have entered the market 2 weeks later in a contracted emotional state, expecting failure rather than success, seeing obstacles rather than opportunities. He might have missed the better house entirely or lacked the energy to pursue it. His disappointment would have become self-fulfilling prophecy, voiding the guarantee through incorrect response. Or consider if David had fixated on the original house, unable to release his attachment to that specific form. He might have spent weeks trying to resurrect the failed deal, exhausting his energy on a closed door. He might have rejected the better house because it did not match the image he had formed around the original one. His fixation would have blocked the upgrade the universe was offering. David's story is not exceptional. Variations of this story occur constantly, though we rarely recognize them, because we do not apply the framework that makes them visible. Every closed door in your past may have been protecting you from something you could not see. Every denied desire may have been making room for something better. You will never know for certain because the alternatives were never experienced, but the framework allows you to interpret your history generously and your future hopefully. Examine your own life through this lens. Think of a significant disappointment, a desire denied, a door that closed when you wanted it to open. Can you trace the path from that apparent failure to something that would not have occurred otherwise? Can you identify the better thing that emerged because the lesser thing was blocked? You may find that the universe has been operating the success guarantee throughout your life, even when you did not recognize it, even when your response was less than ideal. Imagine how much more powerfully it could operate if you responded consciously and correctly to every apparent failure from this moment forward. You have now received the complete teaching of the success guarantee as Wallace D. Wattles articulated it and as life demonstrates it. Let us gather the threads of this wisdom into a final synthesis that you can carry forward into every challenge and apparent defeat you will ever face. The core truth is this: you are playing a game you cannot lose as long as you do not quit. Read that again and let it penetrate to the core of your being. The universe is not neutral territory where success and failure are equally possible outcomes. The universe is rigged, rigged in your favor, rigged for your expansion, rigged for your increase. The fundamental forces of creation want you to succeed, want you to express more fully, want you to receive abundantly. Your only job is to not interfere with this support through the collapse into disappointment or the fixation on form. When you understand this truly, fear loses its grip on your psychology. What is there to fear if failure is impossible? You can pursue ambitious goals with courage, because even if the specific form fails, the essence will manifest in upgraded form. You can take risks because the universe protects you from real loss as long as you maintain your faith. You can face setbacks with equanimity because setbacks are not evidence against you, but evidence for you. Evidence that you are heading for something too small and are being redirected to something greater. This is not positive thinking as the world understands it. This is recognition of how reality actually operates for anyone aligned with the certain way. The person who maintains faith, clarity of purpose, genuine gratitude, and consistent action cannot fail in any ultimate sense. They may experience delays, redirections, apparent setbacks, but these are the mechanics of their guarantee working, not the breakdown of the guarantee. Every closed door is a signpost pointing toward an open one. Every denied desire is evidence of a greater desire being prepared for delivery. You possess the pivot protocol now. You know to refuse defeat immediately through verbal and mental reframing. You know to double your faith rather than diminishing it, expanding expectation rather than contracting it. You know to search actively for the new door that the redirection is opening. You know to use the mantra, this or something better, to keep your faith intact and your possibilities open. These are not theories to be admired, but practices to be applied. Their power lies in application, and application lies in your hands. You understand the fatal mistakes that void the guarantee. The collapse into sustained disappointment stops the better thing from coming. The fixation on specific forms blocks the upgraded forms the universe is offering. Guard against these mistakes with vigilance. When disappointment whispers, recognize it as a lie and refuse it entry. When attachment clings to denied forms, release deliberately and open to superior alternatives. These guards are not restrictions on your experience, but protections of your guarantee. Hear this now as if it were spoken directly to your soul in a moment when you need it most. Wipe your tears. Stop looking at the closed door. The universe did not say no to you. It said, upgrade. The thing you lost was not your good being denied. It was the universe clearing space for a greater good that requires more room than the lost thing would have allowed. You are being protected even when you feel abandoned. You are being promoted even when you feel demoted. The intelligence that orchestrates all things knows more than you know, sees further than you see, and loves you more than you can comprehend. It would not deny you something good unless it had something better waiting. It would not close a door unless it had opened a window. No, not a window, a grand entrance you have not yet discovered. Stand tall in the aftermath of apparent failure. Do not shrink. Do not cower. Do not let circumstances determine your posture. Your posture should reflect your understanding, and your understanding is now clear. You cannot fail in any real sense. The thing you lost was just a pebble you were reaching for. The thing that is coming is a diamond that your hands could not have held if they were full of pebbles. You were not ready for the diamond when you wanted the pebble. The universe knew this. It denied the pebble, and now it is preparing you for the diamond. Reaffirm your faith in this moment. Speak it aloud if you can. Whisper it if you must. I trust the guarantee. I know that something better is coming. I refuse disappointment and embrace expectation. I release attachment to what was denied and open myself fully to what is being prepared. I am ready to receive my upgrade. Let these words reprogram any doubt that the world's interpretation of failure has installed in your consciousness. Let them be the foundation on which you stand, unshakable as storms pass around you. The universe responds to faith with faithfulness, to trust with trustworthiness, to expectation with delivery. What you expect, you invoke. What you invoke, you attract. What you attract, you receive. If you expect upgraded good from every apparent failure, Upgraded good is what you will receive. This is not magic, this is law. Work with the law, and the law works for you. Resist the law, and you resist your own good. The choice is yours, and you can make it anew in every moment, starting now. Your story is not over. Whatever apparent failure you are facing right now, whatever door has closed in your face, whatever dream has dissolved before your eyes, this is not the end of your story. This is the setup for the next chapter, which will be greater than any chapter you have yet lived. The universe is not done with you. It is just getting started on the upgraded version of your life that could not have begun until the smaller version was cleared away. Cooperate with this clearing. Welcome it. Even thank it, for it is working in your favor. You are stronger than you know, more capable than you have demonstrated, more beloved by the universe than you have allowed yourself to feel. The guarantee is real, it is operational, and it is working for you right now, even as you receive these words. All that remains is for you to claim it, to respond to apparent failure with the faith and practices that keep the guarantee active. This is your power. This is your birthright. No one can take it from you. You can only give it away through the collapse into disappointment. Refuse to give it away. Hold your faith and watch what the universe delivers. Now I invite you to prove these principles to yourself through direct experience. Here is the upgrade challenge, which I offer to you as a practical first step in activating the success guarantee in your own life. Look back at the biggest apparent failure of your past. Find the event that felt most like defeat, most like the universe turning against you, most like evidence that the laws do not work, or that you are somehow excluded from their operation. Hold that event in your mind clearly, with all its pain and disappointment remembered. Now rewrite the story of that event. Trace the path from that apparent failure to anything positive that followed, any strength you developed, any lesson you learned, any redirect that led somewhere you would not have gone otherwise, any blessing that could not have come if the failed thing had succeeded. Find the upgrade. It is there, you simply may not have looked for it before. If you can identify even one way in which that apparent failure led to something better, you have proven to yourself that the universe has always been guiding you, even when you did not know it, even when you responded with disappointment rather than faith. You have evidence from your own life that the success guarantee operates. And if it operated then in your past, without your conscious cooperation, imagine how much more powerfully it can operate going forward with your conscious cooperation. Write this new story down. Speak it aloud. Share it if you are willing. Transform the narrative of your past from a story of defeat survived into a story of disguised blessing revealed. This transformation of past interpretation creates momentum for present and future application. You begin to see differently because you have proven to yourself that different seeing is justified. If you are ready to live a life where every defeat is just a victory in disguise, where every closed door is a redirection to a larger entrance, where the universe is not your adversary but your ally and guardian, then you are ready to commit to this path fully. Subscribe to the Master's Legacy channel and join a community of seekers who are reclaiming the wisdom of the great masters and applying it to modern life. Turn on notifications so that each new teaching reaches you the moment it is released. Share this video with someone who is facing apparent failure right now and needs to hear that their story is not over. The success guarantee is your birthright. It has been operating throughout human history, lifting those who respond correctly to apparent failure into achievements beyond their original conception. Today, you have received the knowledge of how it works and the practices that keep it active. Tomorrow begins the rest of your life, a life in which failure is impossible not because you will never face setbacks, but because setbacks will never again have the power to stop you. Go now with this certainty. You cannot fail. You can only pivot. You can only be redirected. You can only be upgraded. The universe has spoken its promise to you through the words of Wallace D. Wattles and through every example of someone who maintained faith through apparent failure and emerged into greater success. Accept this promise, claim your guarantee, and watch as your life transforms into the expression of abundance it was always meant to become.